Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition here of the Spartan Sim Racing League Truck Series as we're here live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. I'm your host, Taylor Burst. Alongside me is our amazing producer, Austin Derbyshire, as we get set to go racing here in the Irish foothills of Michigan International Speedway. This track here, this 2-mile behemoth, has provided some great racing action all throughout its long, beautiful history here. And it's going to put on another great show with the NASCAR trucks that are about to head out onto the track. Qualifying has just wrapped up. We're just underway for a few more seconds before we turn them loose to get set for today's racing action. Darby, I want to bring to you right quick. Of course, a lot of exciting action has been happening all season long in the SSRL Truck Series, but Michigan is definitely a track that will test the limits of each and every one of them.
Yeah, I've been quite surprised by the action of these drivers. I've only been producing this. As you know, you've been producing before I started here at the end of the regular NASCAR season. But since then, we've definitely seen some domination from drivers like Chad Gunningsman and Heath Snyder, amongst others. But I'm hoping tonight we could get a breakthrough from another driver, or maybe a few other drivers up near the front.
A lot of heavy hitters. We saw in qualifying there was quite a bit of changes up there in the running order. We'll give you a full field rundown here in a few moments as warm-up is just about wrapping up, but it was an exciting qualifying. But first and foremost, let us go into the keys of today's race, and of course, starting things off with today's action, as we see, it is finding your dance partner. Yes, this is not like Talladega or Daytona, but there is a lot of drafting that could come into play for each and every single one of these trucks. These trucks are able to work their way through and get the runs they need. Also, be careful off of turn number 2. That truck can get very tight as the run progresses further and further into the run. You got to be careful. Watch out for the bumps as well that could shoot your truck right up to the outside wall off turn 2. And then, of course, finally, expect excitement. Every time we see an iRacing highlight reel, it always comes to Michigan, and it is 3, 4, sometimes 5 and 6 wide action as they come across the start-finish line, and you may well see it here tonight on Grid Vision as the drivers are now getting themselves ready to go. We could see that happen here tonight. Of course, here as well, we got our picks for today's action. For me, I'm going to be picking Heath Snyder out there in that number 29 Grid Vision Chevrolet for Elliott Sadler Esports. And Mr. Derbyshire, who are you picking for tonight?
Well, I'm going with Kyle Westwood. I'm going to go with the pick for Joe's sake. Not here tonight, out celebrating Christmas with the Fam Jam. But yeah, Heath there, Westwood, my pick tonight.
All right, well, we'll keep track of those drivers here in tonight's action as it is time to turn them loose. On the front row with a pole time of a 38.928, it is Kyle Westwood, Austin's pick, and then my pick, Heath Snyder, starting in second place. Moving on to row number 2 from Maysville, Ohio, Hughes with Keithsburg, Illinois, Benjamin Stevens. Moving on down the line to row number 3, we're going to have the drivers of Kevin Martin from Fort Worth, Texas, and Jason Kratky from Joshua, Texas. Mac Brown and Joseph Tucker will be in the next row with 8th and 7th, and then it's going to be Jordan Sailors from Gainesville, Georgia, and Victor Pfluger rounding out your top 10.
Starting in P11, we have Colton Gardner and Charles Ebert starting right behind him. Next, we'll find Dave Fuge and Scott Schroeder, followed by Blair Hollyman, Christopher Fuge, Chad Gunningsman, and Eric Nicotara. In P18 and P19 will be James Staples, and P20 will be Logan Joyle.
Moving on to 21st position from Sunday, Tennessee, with Gary Donnelly. Rob Yost from Colonial Park, Pennsylvania. In 22nd, 23rd, will be Patrick Dunn from Stone, Illinois. Todd Barrett in the next position. We have Tom Ringer from Fresno, California, and J.P. Jones in 26th. 27 will be Powell from Ramsey, Minnesota. Ethan Ethel will be also the field, and Sean Stevens round out 29 truck field. 2 trucks did not take the start here, so we'll see how this all plays out at the moment. 27 did take the start of the race, so we'll keep track of them as the field is paced behind Fred Pace car track driver to get set here as they work their way through. Sorry about the technical difficulties there, everyone. We are now getting ready to go set here. And the field working their way through the middle of turn 3 and 4. It's Westwood. It's Snyder. Almost left to the last stage break around lap 32. As the field makes their way into the start zone, Barney the flagman will have the green flag in the air, and it's time to go racing here at Michigan. And already Heath Snyder gets a great jump right there on the outside lane, but Kyle Westwood will hold strong. Drafting already coming to play as Hunter Hughes puts the bumper there to the back bumper of the 92 of Westwood, who will propel just by a little bit ahead to lead off of turn number 2. Now side by side, 2 by 2 as they come out of turn number 2. A couple of trucks get a little bit loose there, but they gather it back up as they work down the back straightaway. So far, so good as they make their way down to turn 3 and 4. Westwood struggles on the inside, but here comes Heath Snyder around the outside. He'll come out of turn number 4 to lead lap number 1. And as he works his way through out of turn number 4, side by side for the race lead as they have their dancing partner right there behind. You have Hunter Hughes on the outside lane. Right behind in the 69 is going to be Kevin Martin pushing their way through. Snyder will lead the opening lap. Field now is working their way through. Then here comes Hunter Hughes. He'll hold the position into second place right now. And then you have Westwood now stuck on the bottom with no help. Here comes now Hunter Hughes to the inside. He will slingshot his way past down to the bottom of the racetrack. Heath Snyder has nothing to hold on to for the moment. No help. They'll go side by side. Drag race off of turn number 4. And it will be Hunter Hughes who will take over the race lead as they come across the start-finish line. Will he lead the lap? Yes, he will. New race leader. Heath Snyder, though, travels back around the outside to retake the race lead as they come back into turns 1 and 2.
Hunter Hughes in that 18 Ford Christmas paint. Very nice looking. Great to see a driver who I haven't seen up near the front most of the season battling here, the likes of Heath Snyder.
Yeah, Heath Snyder is really putting on a good show here. He finally gathers back up to take the race lead, but here comes Kevin Martin. He will take over the second spot. Mac Brown right there in the 96 machine, holding on to the 4th spot in the catbird seat. Unfortunately for Westwood, he is falling further and further back to 5th position as he's under pressure from Victor Pfluger and Joseph Tucker as those two battle. But here comes Martin to the inside, try to show the nose, can't quite make it work, as your top 4 starting to separate themselves from the rest of the field. How about this? Look at Mac Brown right there. He'll show the nose to the bottom of the racetrack. And here comes Martin now. Side by side, 2 by 2 for the top 4 spots. Martin will try to nose out ahead of Heath Snyder, the Team Conti machine, trying to propel himself up to the race lead to have our 4th different race leader at the start of the race. Can't quite make it work. Snyder will lead the lap with the help from Hunter Hughes along with Mac Brown. And so far, not going to work out. Snyder will power his way back around the outside, but he's got to be careful. Gets a little bit tight right there. This could open up the door for Kevin Martin to try to work his way through. So far, they're going to drag race down the back straightaway. Martin drops back to second once again, as here comes the 18 of Hunter Hughes. He thought about going 3 wide, thought better of it, stays tucked up behind the 29 of Heath Snyder for the time being, as Mac Brown still holds the 4th spot. There you see the battle for 5th between Westwood and Pfluger, as here comes Hughes down to the bottom of the racetrack. He's now going to push Kevin Martin up to the race lead. New race leader Kevin Martin will take over the race lead here on lap number 6 as they battle for second, and Martin will hold on to those colorful Christmas colors as he tries to hold on to second. Can't make it work. Snyder in the grid vision machine will push the driver of Kevin Martin as we go further back to Jordan Sailors, who's going to go 3 wide for 5th spot. He's got a little help from the 78 of Benjamin Stevens, who's going to push him as we go back to the race lead. A lot of great racing action here in these opening stages of the race. We're racing to lap 32 to the complete stage number 1. So far, these drivers are putting on a great show here as we see Snyder retakes the lead as of turn number 2, but can he clear? No. He's going to lose that from the momentum on the outside of Kevin Martin and Hunter Hughes. Mac Brown just sitting comfortably in the 4th spot, ready to make a move if need be, but so far not going to work as they go back to 2x2 for 2nd place. As Snyder tries to clear the 18 Hughes out of turn number 4 and will do so, but Hughes has help from Mac Brown at the moment as they come across the start-finish line. Keeping an eye on some of the other battles here, we will drop back a little bit to the battle for 7th between Joseph Tucker and Kyle Westwood, who keeps falling further and further back here in this race. Your pole sitter really struggling here in the early part of the race. He's losing another spot to Jason Kratke in the 54 truck, dropping him back to P9. Dave Fuge, though, just hit the wall off heading into turn 3 and 4. Can he keep it under control? He is really loosey-goosey, throwing Colton Gardner, who goes up the racetrack, hitting the outside wall. He's trying to gather it back up, and he does so, but a tough break. He will drop all the way back outside the top 20, and some significant damage by the looks of it to his truck. He'll have to see what he can do under caution if he gets that opportunity as we go back up to the race lead. No changes so far, but here comes Victor Pfluger in the hunt with Jordan Sailors as they hunt down your top 4. Sailor gets a good help push right there from the driver of Victor Pfluger up ahead of him as they work their way out of turn number 4. They have closed into the back bumper of Mac Brown as he is looking to try to close the door in front of Pfluger. Can't quite make it work for the time being. Pfluger trying to find the opening as he goes to the outside, stays tucked up behind the 96 Chevrolet, and so far is looking to see if he can get a good run off turn number 2. He's not close enough to try anything here. He's got help from Sailors in the number 1 machine, but so far not able to make the run he needs in that number 43 Toyota. He'll now duck down to the bottom. Mac Brown going to pinch him a little bit here. That could cause a little bit of issues, but we see Pfluger sends it down to the bottom of the racetrack to make it stick, and he is going to try to get that big run down on the bottom as here comes Kevin Martin for the race lead as they come across the start-finish line. Martin will lead that lap, but Hunter Hughes will be able to dig his way up and now nose ahead of Kevin Martin for the race lead. Heath Snyder in the catbird seat, ready to go whichever lane is fastest, which it is the outside lane as they come down here, down the front back straightaway. And here comes Sailor to the inside. He'll look to the inside of Victor Pfluger as caution is out. Trouble for the number 10 machine who's looped it around. That is Logan Joyle in his number 10 Chevrolet. Take a look and see what happened here. Coming out of turn number 2. Yep, turn 2 strikes again. Got a little too tight. He gets collected up by, looks like the 77 machine. Tough break and loops it around and unfortunately collects a couple of other drivers. Art Nicotera being the driver who also got collected on that. Significant damage to his Chevrolet. Go on board with Logan Joyle. Yeah, right there. He hits the wall and unfortunately several other trucks. The 24 of James Staple involved. A couple other close calls for a couple of other drivers. JP Jones also barely made it through as the first caution comes out with 12 laps on the board. And now the question is going to be, will anyone pit this early on in the race? I think it's safe to say nobody will for the moment. But we do know tires are important here at this track. You're using a lot of full throttle action around the circuit. You got to be careful of how much you input. And fuel is another thing as well. And everybody's going to come to top off their trucks and get themselves ready to go racing once again. And as field works their way, ooh, big slide right there for Sailors. He nearly missed his pit box. And as they race off pit road, it will be Heath Snyder who will win the race off, followed by Kevin Martin. Then you have Mac Brown, Hunter Hughes, and Victor Pfluger, your top 5. Tough break for Sailors as he did miss his box, had to back it up a little bit, and he will come out in 19th position. Of course, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by some amazing partners here. Of course, the Admin Button Box, one of the premier partners, along with Maconi. Make sure to visit them in order to help have your chances to compete here in the SSRL, as well as visit their websites to learn more about their amazing products here today. If you want to have the chance to improve upon your iRacing experience, visit, of course, Admin Button Box and Maconi Setup Shop, as well as also Butt Kicker. To learn more about those, visit their websites at any moment. And of course, make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms here at Grid Vision to keep up to date with all the sim racing action going into 2025. Field now lined up, double filed, and ready to go racing once again as the field works their way into it. Here is your rundown for your field of drivers. It is Heath Snyder, Kevin Martin on the front row, Mac Brown in third, Hunter Hughes fourth, Victor Pfluger and Joseph Tucker in your third row, Jason Kratke, Kyle Westwood in row 4. Then Chad Gunningsman has fought his way into the top 10 with Scott Schroeder in 10th position. We do have one driver who will take it behind the wall. That is Art Nicotera, who will call it quits, unfortunately, due to significant damage to his number 17 Team Watson Setup Shop Chevrolet. So a tough break for Nicotera. He was looking to have such a good run here today and unfortunately will not get to continue. He'll get to try again, though, next week when the Spartan Sim Racing League Series Truck Series heads to Talladega. Fred, the pace car driver, will make the hard left turn down on pit road. Barney the flagman will have the green flag in the air, and we are set to go back racing here, closing in on halfway in stage number 1. And already Heath Snyder checks out on the field with a big jump. He will get in front of Kevin Martin in the Team Conti machine as those two line up nose to tail and get themselves sent off into turns 1 and 2. Couple of new players in the top 5. You have Joseph Tucker now in the 5th spot. He'll try to now follow his way through as we now see Hunter Hughes look to the inside of Mac Brown for 3rd. Side by side for the 3rd spot. Tucker sits in the 5th spot waiting to see what to make the move on as here comes Pfluger around the outside to get a good run. Not able to make it work, though, as Hughes tries to get to the inside of Mac Brown and get that 3rd spot away. He's got a little help from Tucker, who will try to help and propel him to the 3rd spot. As they make contact, Mac Brown down to the bottom of the racetrack and comes back up across the track. Caution comes out once again as multiple trucks collected up in this one. So right here, Hunter Hughes goes to the bottom. Unfortunately, he comes up a little bit too much into Mac Brown, who makes a hard hit, doesn't hold the brake, and collects Jordan Sailor and several others. Sailor is out of the race. A couple other drivers also involved in this one is drivers besides Mac Brown, but also the 14 of JP Jones, who is also down on pit road, and I think Chris Fuge nearly made it through almost, but he got some significant damage. Yep, right there, it went over top both him and another vehicle. Trying to catch who else with that. Was that the 88 of Patrick Stein? It was. We get another look at that. Yep. Riding on board here with Patrick Stein as it clears over the roof of it, and then unfortunately he gets collected up in a couple of other incidences with Logan Joyle and company. The Into the Apex podcast series driver, Patrick Stein, is out for a little drive and right over his Ford F-150. And keep an eye on Logan Joyle. He might be getting ready to cross over his incident level point, so that could be a penalty as well, possibly coming out for the number 10 machine. So a couple of drivers now coming down pit road. Patrick Stein. Also, it looks like the driver of Colton Gardner, Christopher Fuge, also coming down to make some repairs. Been a very exciting night so far for these drivers here in the back half of the field, but unfortunately for some, their night is done. As we now are under our second caution once again. See how this all plays out for our competitors. Snyder, Martin, of course, your front row. Joseph Tucker, Hunter Hughes. Then you have Victor Pfluger, Westwood, Gunningsman, Kratke, Schroeder, and Blair Holloman has broken into the top 10. $18 laps on the board. We are going to lap 32 to end stage number 1. And then we'll make the drive from whenever we go back green after lap 32 is on the board to lap number 80. As we should get lights out on the pace car and double them back up, which they are beginning to make the process to do so. As we're get set, go back racing with 20 laps on the board for our drivers. Couple of drivers who have been on the move so far as we're getting ready to go back green flag racing is Chad Gunningsman, who went from 17th to 7th, and Rob Yost Jr. from 22nd to 13th. So a couple of heavy hitters working their way up through the field here as we get set to go back racing, heading into turn 3 and 4. Keep an eye here who gets the better jump on the field as Heath Snyder and the driver of Kevin Martin will bring us back to the green flag here once again. As the sun comes out a little bit, that's going to bring some temperatures up onto the racetrack and melt those tires a little bit more. Fred makes the hard left turn down to the pit road as Barney the Flagman will hold the green flag once again. It's time to go back racing here. 20 laps on the board, and away we go. A little bit of a bobble in the mid-pack here on that restart as we go on board with Heath Snyder, who clears the rest of the field to take on the race lead as they head down into turns 1 and 2. Joseph Tucker now moves up to second place with that Ford F-150. As we see Kevin Martin trying to get around the outside once again in the 69. Not going to work this time as they head down the back straightaway 2x2 a little further back as we see Victor Pfluger trying to move into fourth. He's got around the driver of Hunter Hughes as Gunningsman. There you see him in the back of the screen trying to get his way into the top 5 for the first time tonight. Martin will hold on as Pfluger looks to the inside, side by side for third. He'll try to work his way around in that number 43 machine. And he will clear, not quite, as here comes Martin down to the bottom of the racetrack to find his opening to get around Heath Snyder for the race lead. Not going to work off a turn number 2, side by side as Snyder will try to hold on for the time being. Tucker holds on to third as here comes Hunter Hughes around the outside for the 4th spot with help from Chad Gunningsman in 6th position. Westwood in the catbird seat watches on from 7th. As Gunningsman tries to cross over to go to that 3rd outside lane right up against the outside wall. Not going to work for him as he comes across the start-finish line. He will get ahead of Pfluger for the moment as Pfluger gives way to the position, and Gunningsman is now in the top 5. Gunningsman now looks to the inside of the number 18, Hunter Hughes now. Can't quite make it work this time around. He'll make the run down the back straightaway as we go on board with Hunter Hughes. Santa gives a little bit of a wave right there and seeing what he can try and do. As here comes Westwood around. He's going to run that top side as we go on board with Gunningsman in the Reaper Speed Lab Cincinnati Ford. So far, so good for him. He will hold on for the moment as he will push the driver of Hunter Hughes to catch up to your top 3. They get a big run as Pfluger watches on a little further big behind as they head into turn 1 and 2. There you see Gunningsman running to the outside lane along with Kyle Westwood, while everyone else from Pfluger up decides to run that middle to bottom lane here as a little bit of a bobble right there for the driver of Joseph Tucker as we're 3 and 4 wide further back. Dave Hughes Jr. and a couple of other drivers, Blair Holloman, trying to battle it out for position. Drew Prohl right there has moved up to 11th position with his pass right there in the number 80 machine. As here comes Tucker to the bottom of the racetrack. He wants to try to get second away from Kevin Martin for the moment. Heath Snyder is just looking back and thinking, yep, you guys go ahead and battle. Let me be the one who runs away from this battle for position. As here comes Hughes back on the attack to the bottom of the race. Here for the 3rd position with help from Chad Gunningsman and Victor Pfluger. As here we go further back in this hornet's nest with, of course, the driver of Jason Kratke holding on to the 9th position. 3 wide, Gunningsman on the top side. A little bit of a bobble right there amongst some other drivers as Gary Donnellan is trying to work his way on in the 6th position. He almost gets right there and almost has the same situation that happened a few laps ago where we saw some drivers make contact, but the Inception Chevrolet will be able to clear the driver of Victor Pfluger and possibly Chad Gunningsman for the 5th spot. He sets his sight on Hunter Hughes now as they head down the back straightaway, clears him, moves into 5th. Drivers now, here we go, a little further back, the battle in here. That is the driver of Jason Kratke, who's dropped back to 12th. This is Drew Prohl, David Fuge, Benjamin Stevens, Kratke, Schroeder, and company, all jockeying for position right here. The 78 of Benjamin Stevens and Dave Fuge Jr. are having a spirited battle for that 10th position. As Drew Prohl has now pulled away from them, he's trying to hunt down Kyle Westwood. As Stevens looks to the inside, tries to propel his way further forward ahead of Dave Fuge Jr. in the Spartan Chevrolet. And he will clear him heading down the back straightaway, and so far so good as Drew Prohl will try to hold on and get around the 92 of Kyle Westwood for position. How about Gary Donnellan, who has now moved up to 2nd? Where did he come from? He picked it up and tried to find the speed that he needs. Started in 26. Trouble, though, for the 18 machine of Hunter Hughes. He'll loop it down to the bottom. Can we keep it off the racing circuit? No. Caution is out for the 3rd time just before we get ready to go into the stage break. Unfortunate situation for one of your front runners, Hunter Hughes, who was having a good run. Let's take a look at the replay to see what happened to him. I'm curious if kind of the same situation that he got caught up in with a couple of drivers happened to him here momentarily. Yep, Chad Gunningsman right there as they come down. Oh, yep, same situation, pretty much identical. Just a little bit less chaotic, I would have to say. Everyone else was able to avoid him as we see Hunter Hughes just hold the brake and everyone just avoid him as easily as possible. As Hunter Hughes will drop back to the 20th position. A little bit of side drafting action happening as well, as there you see Hughes just trying to push Gunningsman down the bottom, and then Gunningsman comes up and Hughes comes down, and around Hughes will go in his number 18 Ford F-150. With that, while these drivers get themselves sorted out, we're under our third caution of the night. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break, say thank you to our amazing partners. You're watching Grid Vision's coverage of the SSRL Truck Series live from Michigan.
For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
With the launch of Makoni Entertainment and Makoni Competizone alongside Makoni Setup Shop, we now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MakoniSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Grid Vision's coverage of the SSRL Truck Series. We're only a couple of laps away from the end of stage number 1 as we're about to go back green. So it's going to be a short little dash, then the end of stage 1. We will divvy up some points for some drivers, and then we'll re-rack them and restack them and go back at once again. My name is Taylor Burris. Alongside me is our producer, Austin Derbyshire, who's been working hard away as trying to get all the angles for you to see the action as best you can. As we get ready to go back racing, it's Snyder and Martin on the front row. Donnellan, who's been making a major charge to the field. He's looking to see if he can get some very important in stage points here as we come to an end of stage 1. Green flag is in the air from Barney the Flagman as Donnellan trying to get a jump but could not make it work. He's going to try to fight for second, though, as Snyder pulls away once again. As here comes Victor Pfluger. He is going to push Donnellan down the front straightaway, heading into turn 1. Tucker is going to try to work with the driver of Kevin Martin as they come in through turn 2. Pfluger, though, goes below that yellow line. That's going to cause a lot of steam to be lost for him As they head down the back straightaway, Martin and company just sidewinding, dicing their way, trying to find the opening as we go 3 and 4 wide, heading off into turn 3 and 4 as Martin sends it down to the bottom of the racetrack. Contact is made between the two of them as Snyder holds on as they come through the middle of turn 3 and 4 across the start-finish line. Snyder will lead the lap. He's got to hold on for at least one more to make it to the end of stage number 1. 32 on the board as they make their way through as they head off into turn 1 and 2. Here comes Tucker around the outside, 3 wide for second. Donnelly tries to go through the middle for second. Can't quite make it work. Drops down to the bottom of the racetrack to try and get around the driver of Kevin Martin as they dice for second. Field works their way through down into turn 3 and 4 for the final time in stage number 1. Side by side for second as Snyder tries to shut the door in front of Donellan. One driver runs right up against the outside wall. Not going to work, though, as they try to slice and dice. Snyder throws the block as he will pick up the stage win. Gary Donellan, Kevin Martin, Chad Gunningsman, Joseph Tucker, Drew Prohl, Benjamin Stevens, Victor Pfluger, Dave Fuge, and Jason Kratke. Your top 10 finishers in the stage 1 situation. And with that, let's go ahead and talk to our stage 1 winner, Mr. Heath Snyder. As we'll get him pulled up here into the booth momentarily. Here with Heath Snyder. Heath, I have to say, you held on for dear life. They were beating and banging with you right there, but you came home with the stage win. Walk us through that, a little bit of excitement, 2-lap dash.
But he definitely had some speed coming through the field. So great run to him, and looking forward to what the rest of the race holds.
You got still quite a bit of racing to go, just about under 50 laps to go. You think you can pull off the right strategy to make this win?
I think we can get there. I'm interested in seeing if we have green flag pit stops or not. So if we do, that can definitely shake it up. But I think it's going to be a good race from here.
That is your stage 1 winner, Heath Snyder, taking home the much-needed bonus points here as he'll come down pit road and make his pit stop here, and we'll let him get ready to go once again. Darby, I know you were back there behind the control panels a little bit, but it's been a little bit of an exciting race for so far as we watch these drivers race off pit road here. Snyder will hold on to the race lead with that, followed by Martin, Donellan, Chad Gunningsman, and Joseph Tucker, your top 5.
Yes, most certainly. I'm really excited to see what Kmart will be able to do here as the race goes on. He's definitely had it to be right there near the front, but never able to hold on to the lead more than a lap or two. So I am really hoping to see what he can do and see if he can take home the W now.
Absolutely. We're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to talk maybe to one more driver if we can find him. Just wanted to check through right quick, and we're going to talk to the driver who came home second in this stage. Gary Donellan up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Got a copy.
Well, Gary, first and foremost, a great drive through the field for you here today from 26. You come up to second to finish up stage number 1. What was the strategy call for you to come out with that strong finish there?
I just took my tires a little early, try to get a little track position. I'm having to save the crap out of fuel right now, though.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. A great drive for you indeed here today. And we'll see what happens for you going into stage 2.
Appreciate it.
As we get set to go racing once again here, and he has got a lot of work to do there, Darby, but it's going to be exciting to see what he can do. He's got the track position now for him as we get set to go into stage 2.
Yeah, Donellan definitely had probably the greatest advancement we've seen of any driver within a lap or 2-lap run when we saw him there near the end of the last stage.
Absolutely. Let's give you a full field rundown. It's Heath Snyder, your race leader, followed by Kevin Martin in second. Gary Donellan is now in third. Chad Gunningsman is going to be in fourth with Joseph Tucker in fifth. Then you have Drew Prohl in 6th, Benjamin Stevens, Victor Pfluger, Dave Fuchs Jr., and Kyle Westwood, your top 10. Colton Gardner is in 11th with Tom Ringer 12th, Charles Abert and Hunter Hughes in 13th and 14th. 15th is Todd Parent with James Staple, Blair Holloman, Jason Kratke, Scott Schroeder, Patrick Stein, your top 20. Rob Yost Jr. is going to be in 21st, the last car on the lead lap. Logan Joyle is 22nd, 6 laps down. Christopher Fuge is 23rd, 9 laps down. JP Jones is out of the race, followed by Mac Brown, Jordan Sailors, and Art Nicotera, your 27 drivers who are, of course, from 22nd to last is out of contention as the pace car makes the hard left turn. Coming to lap 36 of 80. Green flag is back out, and already Heath Snyder picking up where he left off. It's a Chevy 1, 2, 3. Chad Gunningsman's trying to break up the bow tie party to blaring in the blue oval, along with help from Joseph Tucker. Then you have the Toyota of Victor Pfluger trying to break way through for the Japanese brand as they come through the middle of turns 1 and 2. And the bow ties lead the charge off turn number 2 and lows the tail as one driver hits the outside wall. That was Drew Prohl off turn 2. Here comes Dave Fuchs Jr. down to the bottom of the racetrack. Sends it down there, and he will try to clear Drew Prohl off turn number 4. Can't quite make it work for the Spartan Ford. As here comes Drew around the outside. He's got help from the 78 of Benjamin Stevens. Kyle Westwood, your pole sitter, trying to find his way back up to the front of the field where he last left off. As we watch him battle for position, the Extreme Ford versus the Spartan Ford. As they come out of turn 2, Fuge tries to shut the door on him, but Drew, with that outside momentum, gets the position for the moment. As they head down the back straightaway here, your top 6, they're pretty much lined up nose to tail. And just as I say that, Gunningsman drops it down below the line here and tries to get right there to the back bumper of Gary Donnellan for 3rd. Drivers now work their way around the circuit. There you see Victor Pfluger thinking about going around the outside as Donnellan is starting to fall back a little bit. Remember, he touched on he has to save fuel in order to make it to his needed fuel window. So he's going to give way here for the moment, and he's going to lose a couple of spots. He'll drop back outside the top 5 as Drew Prohl now tries to find his way around. He's going to now get caught up right there in front of Dave Fuchs Jr., who will now drop it down the elevator and go around him here on the bottom of the racetrack. Field now off of turn number 4. So far, so good. It's 2x2 from about 5th on back as Dave Fuchs Jr. drops all the way down to the bottom, trying to find his opening he needs. So far, so good. He'll clear the driver of Gary Donnellan for position as Benjamin Stevens tries to follow suit here. And will do so off turn 2. Move Stevens up to P8 for the moment. Donnellan back to P9. Here comes Gunningsman. He's going to try to send it down, and a little bit of a bobble right there from Martin. Martin tried to throw the block. He couldn't make it work because Gunningsman was right there. You're right on board with the number 97. He'll slide back into line. Nose to tail for your top 2 with the Team Conti machine, as he's going to try to get the push he needs from help from Joseph Tucker. It's 5 trucks line nose to tail as Martin thinks about trying to go for the race lead. Thinks better of it. He'll stay tucked up behind here as Gunningsman goes around the outside, drops down below, tried to cross him over a little bit, couldn't make it work as they will drag race down the back straightaway. Coming to halfway this time by, and so far Heath Snyder just doing what he needs to do. Throwing the blocks when need to, hitting his marks in the corners, trying to hook that white line as best that he can as they come through the middle of turn 3 and 4. Through the trioval they'll go, as a little bit behind you see the driver of Fuchs Jr. getting the spot from Drew Prohl for position as they try to hunt down your top 5. And everyone's going to go back single file for the most part, not try to put the pressure too much on. As I say that, they'll spread out a little bit. Dave Fuchs Jr., he'll get around Victor Pfluger for the 5th spot as they now dice a little bit up towards the front. 2x2 a little further back as they come down the back straightaway as Chad Gunningsman goes for 2nd, guns it, and makes the pass stick for the moment, and he wants more. He's going to get aggressive, but we see Martin power move on the outside to hold on and retain the 2nd spot.
Fluger holds on to the 5th spot here for the moment as we watch Gunningsman, and here comes Martin down. We see him run right up against the yellow line. We see Heath Snyder just run right on that first seam, and then we saw Gunningsman run above that first seam, almost to the second seam, as trouble for Donellan. Hits the wall off turn 2. He's going to lose a couple of spots to Colton Gardner and Hunter Hughes for position as they go side by side for second once again. Gunningsman noses out ahead for the moment. Martin, though, powers his way with the outside momentum on his side, and he's got to quickly go in front as here comes Tucker with help from the driver of Victor Fluger. As Tucker will stay tucked up behind for the moment as Martin tries to show the nose to try to get around Heath Snyder. Snyder drops it down below the line, and here comes another crossover move from Gunningsman as he tries to propel his way back into second. Gunningsman gets a good run here as he works his way around the circuit as he's got help from Joseph Tucker. Victor Fluger watches onto the catbird seat, but here comes Ben Stevens and Dave Fuge Jr. They have kicked it up a notch here as they want to try to find their way into the top 5 as Tucker gets around Gunningsman for third. He's going to go around the outside here with the outside momentum on his side. Gunningsman trying to hold on as they come through the middle of turn 2, but the big momentum will prevail for the time being as Gunningsman drops back a couple of spots. He's going to possibly lose 3 spots. He's got to get in front of Stevens here before they enter into turn 3 and 4. He's going to try and clear, and he will stay ahead of Stevens, but drops back to 5th. Fluger moving up to P4 as they race their way across the start-finish line here. Stevens gets a big run. He's going to try to set up for a pass for the 5th spot. Look to the bottom of the racetrack, side by side. Stevens gets a good run through here. Can't quite make it work as we're under 40 laps to go. 35 left to go. And as a matter of fact, as they head down the back straightaway off turn 2, Dave Fuge Jr. watches onto the catbird seat as they head down the back straightaway, and he will get around the driver of Benjamin Stevens for that 6th spot. Kevin Martin now starting to fall back a little bit. Last time by, pretty much everyone inside the top 4 ran 41, so 40.1 seconds as they are flying around the circuit, all running similar lap times. Last time by, though, Dave Fuge Jr. was the fastest out of your drivers in the top 10. As he is looking to try to save some of those tires, but also try to stay in the lead draft as best he can, as he wants to have a shot of a top 5 run. Martin now looks to hold on for the position. Here they come down into turn 3 and 4. Stevens on the top side, Fuge in the middle, Gunningsman on the bottom of the racetrack, looking to try to get around Victor Fluger for position. He's got a good run side by side. Can't quite clear him, though. He'll duck back in line behind the 43. Everyone now from pretty much inside the top 12 is going to line up single file, nose to tail. A couple of drivers now starting to spread out a little bit as they come through the middle of turn 1 and 2. So far, no one close enough to set up for a pass just yet. But the time is starting to tick away further and further. Tucker getting a little antsy, thinks about trying to setting up a move here. Can't quite make it work for him in that number 39 Ford. As Fluger looks on in the 4th spot. So far, the excitement starting to ramp closer and closer to the edge here as we come to a close here at Michigan. Drivers just trying to see if they can find their dance partner, see if they can get the big momentum. You ride on board with the driver of Joseph Tucker as he tries to set himself up for a good run off turn 2. In the Chastity Tucker Realtor machine. Big run down the back straightaway. He's going to stay tucked up in 3rd as they start to pull away from 4th and 5th. Ooh, little slice right there across the back bumper right there of Kevin Martin. We'll give a little bit of a push to keep up with Heath Snyder, who is not losing any ground. He is staying right there, just inches away from the front bumper of Kevin Martin. Hasn't been really able to pull away as much as a truck length, As a little bit of a bump right there from Tucker. That's going to cause Martin to get a little loose. And here comes Gunningsman around the outside. He's going to push the driver of Martin to get ahead of Tucker. Pfluger, though, has a little bit of wall contact for Gunningsman. He's going to drop back a couple of positions, possibly. That's Pfluger and Stevens ready to pounce on it, but can't quite make it work as Tucker moves up to second. But here comes the outside momentum from Martin to retain second. Hitting speeds of over 190 miles an hour. Each of these trucks are putting on a stellar drive in the closing laps here as Gunningsman gets a good run off turn number 2. He's going to go around the outside. He's going to push Martin to try to hunt down your race leader as they make the run towards him. Pfluger dives to the bottom of the racetrack to get around Tucker for 4th. And he can't do it. He's going to stay side by side with him. Stevens watches on in position as they work their way through the middle of the corner. Stevens tucks up behind Tucker. And Pfluger will battle as they make more contact side by side. Snyder throws the block on Martin as here comes Dave Fuchs Jr. to make it 3 wide. Oh, a little bit of contact right there. That's going to cause Tucker to wash up the track a little bit, lose some positions as Fuchs Jr. will move up into 5th. But we still keep it clean and green as they go side by side. Stevens along with Colton Gardner. And there you see Donnelly and Prohl right there in the mix. Then you got Hunter Hughes, Charles Abert, and Tom Ringer ready to close in on this battle in case it gets a little too heated for your competitors as they go side by side. 2 by 2, 3 rows deep almost. There you see Ringer right there in 13th as Drew Prohl goes all the way up to the top and sets himself up behind Donnelly to make a run up towards the top 10. Back up front, Heath Snyder has now pulled away by about a truck lane. That's the largest lead he's had pretty much all race long for the most part. Gunningsman's trying to work with Martin to close back up to the race leader. You don't want to have him pull out too far, and then it's going to be a little bit of hard work that's going to have to happen in order for them to make sure they can stay ahead. Those tires starting to wear off a little bit. We've been on one of our longest runs of the race all day long, closing in on almost 20 laps next time by, closing in on possibility of green flag pit stops. We're at least expecting one before the end of the stage as long as we stay green in order to make it to the end here, and they're going to have some work to do as the field works off turn number 2. And these drivers are going to work extra hard here. Penalty for one driver, Jason Kratke, who comes down pit road. I believe he was caught speeding down there. A couple of other drivers also joining him. Patrick Stein. Nope, Stein staying out on the track. I was trying to see who the other driver was. As J.P. Jones comes back out on the track. That was Mac Brown on pit road along with Jordan Saylor. So apologies on that. We'll go back up towards the front between Donnelly as well as the driver of Benjamin Stevens, who are battling for the 8th spot. Field now works their way around the circuit here as they work out of turn number 4 across the front straightaway here. So far, so good for our drivers, and they are really putting the effort on here and trying to make sure they can stay ahead. And right now, Heath Snyder has checked out to his largest lead of the race by almost 0.4 of a second as they work their way through heading into turn 1 and 2. Martin and Gunningsman trying to work together to keep up along with Fuge and Pfluger. But right now, those tires are just starting to fade further and further down the line where it's going to cost them more and more. And now the question is going to be, when do you decide to wave the flag and come down pit road? Who will be the first one to blink amongst this group? And it looks like Dave Fuge Jr. will be the first one inside the top 10 to come down pit road. He will come down along with a couple of other trucks I saw behind him. Looks like to be the 69 or the 55 machine of Todd Parent and James Staple, who is also a little further back in the field. So now we wait to see who of our front runners will come down pit road. Just got confirmation that Christopher Fuge and Victor Pfluger are coming down pit road. Here comes Victor Pfluger, and the rest of pretty much your entire field is coming down pit road except for Gary Donnellan. Everybody coming down as they whoa up onto the track, entering pit road, as they have to make it 55 miles an hour down here. You don't want to get caught speeding. Gary Donnellan, Tom Ringer staying out for one additional lap. That could be helpful for them as Kyle Westwood and company try to also set themselves up. I think Kyle Westwood is still out on the track. Yes, he is. And he's also been out there for 23 laps. Now the question is going to be who will win the race off pit road, as here comes Gary Donnellan around out of turn number 4. And he's coming down pit road. Heath Snyder wins the race off pit road. Penalties for Charles Abert, as he was caught speeding down pit road by the looks of it. Chad Gunningsman will hold on for the lead or Gary Donnellan as we pick up Chad Gunningsman. He sits 7th for the moment. Blair Holloman, Scott Schroeder also have yet to pit, as Blair Holloman will be your new race leader. Schroeder stays in 2nd as Donnellan and Tom Ringer come down pit road. Kyle Westwood also staying out for another lap by the looks of it. Nope, he has also come down pit road, and penalty for Tom Ringer. Caught speeding once again. Tough break there as Blair Holloman in the number 32 machine looking to try to see if he can stretch it out a little further. He is really stretched down, almost 25 laps for your race leader, as well as Scott Schroeder joins him down on pit road. So 2 Chevrolets, that will now retake the lead back to Heath Snyder here once again. And he has a significant lead here as they come across the line. It's going to be about 0.6 of a second between him, Chad Gunningsman, Dave Fuge Jr., who was the first to pit. He was able to get to P3 with all of that. Kevin Martin sits 4th. Joseph Tucker, your top 5. So things are going to get a little exciting here, as there you see Tucker and the driver of Kevin Martin trying to work together to catch back up to the rest of your top 5. As we are closing in on 20 laps to go. Well, Austin, we just saw the first green flag pit stops to happen. A lot of big strategies, and I have to say, though, for you, who would you think has to be the biggest winner? And for me, it has to be Dave Fuge Jr., who was outside the top 5, came down the first pit road, and now sits 3rd in a good position for a good, strong finish.
Oh, I agree. That was definitely a great pit cycle by Dave Fuge Jr. And 16th up to 3rd. You can't argue that.
Absolutely, but we got to go back up to the race lead, because here comes Gunningsman. He has caught up to Heath Snyder and ready to put the pressure on him here in the closing stages. Under 20 laps to go when they come across the start-finish line here. Gunningsman going to go around the outside. Will he try to set the pass up? So far, so good, as they work their way around, heading into turn 1, side by side for position. Gunningsman edges out. Can he hold on off turn number 2? The answer is yes, he will. New race leader once again, Chad Gunningsman, leads the field once again here in the SSRL Truck Series.
Known Chad for many, many years at this point. He's always been a very talented driver. Love seeing him up front.
Absolutely, Darby, as he will take hold of the race lead, and this brings Dave Fuge Jr. back into the hunt, as well as he is closed up to the back bumper of Heath Snyder, and they have a significant lead by over 2 seconds of Kevin Martin and Victor Pfluger, who are right there in their own little battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tucker right there in the mix. Then you got to go another second back to Colton Gardner and Hunter Hughes, who are right there in the mix with Benjamin Stevens. Jason Kratke, of course, is a lap down. So he is the first car on 1 lap down, so that could be a big help for him, as we have 17 trucks on the lead lap. As Dave Fuge is looking to try to get 2nd place away from Heath Snyder as he puts it back on. You're probably wondering who's been running the faster laps here. Well, last time by, Chad Gunningsman set the fastest lap of the race in this stage with a 39.998. He set it by a significant margin, by almost 3.5 tenths over Heath Snyder. Victor Fluger, though, trying to close up a little bit. He's the closest one who has a shot of speed lap time-wise. Of course, the fastest lap of the race goes to none other than Kevin Martin. Nope, actually scratch that. Goes to Hunter Hughes with a 39.256. Big run right here, a little further back. This is the battle for P10 P9 between Stevens and Donnellan. Donnellan trying everything that he can to get his way back up to the field. That little bit of strategy, it was helpful, but I think also hurt him a little bit as far as where to set himself up for the run. So far, not going to work out for him as he sits in the 10th spot. Good points night for him, though, as he's looking to try to gain some much-needed points to propel him further in the championship. As we're closing in on 15 laps to go in the race, field now works their way through further and further as Gunningsman's checked out to a 0.6 of a second lead. As the field works their way around the circuit. Drivers now, as here we see the driver of Dave Fuge Jr. Actually, this is Victor Fluger and Kevin Martin for position, battling it out as they work their way down into turn 1 and 2. Currently, as the standings as they run as of the last race, it is Chad Gunningsman, your points leader, Ben Stevens second, Blair Holloman, Heath Snyder, Kyle Westwood, your top 5. So for Gary Donnellan, who sits 10th of the standing, another top 10 run will be a big help for him. But for drivers like Andrew Kotska, Drew Pohl, Ethan Ethel, Cody Porter, who's not here tonight, they are definitely going to have to look ahead at Talladega to see what they can do to put on a good fight. As there you see Hunter Hughes trying to also work his way through. For the driver of Hunter Hughes, he sits 18th, so a good points night for him could possibly come into play as he sits 7th here in the standings. Closing in on 10, or now at 12 laps to go for your drivers. So far, no major battles here. Everyone's kind of spaced themselves out or is trying to work together here as they try to see if they can hunt down their positions. Dave Fuge Jr., of course, in the Zeus Racing Machine with the Spartan Sim Racing League colors, trying to work with Heath Snyder. Pass for position here as Colton Gardner drops back to 10th position after Ben Stevens and Gary Donnellan get around him for 8th and 9th as they set their sights on the driver of Hunter Hughes. Just up the head, but for Stevens, he's going to try to do everything they can. They got some lap traffic up ahead. That's Tom Ringer. So they got a little bit of work to do, but they might be able to make it work for them as he is right there in the shot as Odd Parent, seeing where he is on the track. He's a couple of seconds back from Colton Gardner. So Colton is looking to hold on to a top 10 finish. As we watch Donnellan and Stevens try to work together in the two Chevrolets to see if they can get a couple of more spots before this is all said and done. Oh, Gunningsman coming down pit, or trouble for Gunningsman. He is down on pit road. Did he not top off enough fuel in order to make it to the finish? Or is he coming down in order to make sure he has enough fuel to make it to the finish? We know these drivers can go about 24 laps. Did he not top off enough? So that will give the race lead back to Heath Snyder. Big changes here in the closing stages. Heath Snyder now has the race lead, and he's now going to hold off Dave Fuge Jr. And lap traffic is up ahead. Dave Fuge, or Heath Snyder also coming down pit road along with Kevin Martin and company. I think it's safe to say here, Darby, that they want to make sure they have enough to make it to the end.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, another pit stop in SSRL. They definitely get us a lot of pit stops with the fuel strategies that they cook into these races and bring the excitement.
Now the question is going to be who can go the longest here. Dave Fuge Jr. is now out in front by about a second with Victor Pfluger, Ben Stevens, Gary Donnellan, Hunter Hughes now your top 5. Will Dave Fuge Jr. come down this time by? The answer is going to be no. He's going to stay out and stretch it out for as long as he can.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be someone who's going to be pressing the issue and saving it and trying to make it to the end.
Absolutely, and if you got a little bit of help from, looks like he's got his Zeus teammate right there up ahead of him, the 32 machine of Blair Holloman. This could be a good chance to get a little bit of a tow and try to work his way through, save a little fuel. He's got about a 1.4 second advantage over Victor Pfluger, so this could be the great time to save as much as he can here in the closing stages. Hunter Hughes comes down pit road. Colton Gardner, James Staple also coming down pit road as Dave Fuge is trying to come in. Victor Pfluger coming down next time by. In the final laps, drama has ensued here in the SSRL. Who has enough once again to make it to the finish? Oh, a little contact right there between him and Kratky. That was Dave Fuge. I would just let him go. There's no need to push the envelope. You want to try to make it to the end, save as much fuel as possible. As Victor Pfluger comes down pit road, he now has a 7-second advantage over Gary Donnellan. This is a great time to save as much, let it coast as much as possible. Todd Perrin also comes down pit road. What about Drew Powell? Trouble for Victor Pfluger. Penalty given out. Too fast coming into pit road. Or at least too fast exiting off pit road, actually. So he's got to come back down pit road and serve a penalty. Tough break for the 43, who was having such a good run. 6 laps to go for Dave Fuge Jr. here in the closing stages at Michigan. And we, of course, knew in the past, Darby Ray Quick coming to you on this, we've seen how Michigan has also been known for its chaotic fuel mileage races, and we're seeing, like we talked about, seeing another one here in the SSRL, and I think Dave is doing phenomenal work just trying to get in the draft of some of these drivers, coast as much as possible. He has the time to make sure he has enough to make it to the end.
Oh yeah, with the gap like he has right now, I'd be just putting the clutch in every single lap, letting it ride around. And then if they get to about 3 seconds, that's when you got to start worrying and start putting the pedal to the metal again.
Well, here's the thing. Right now for Gary Donnelly, he's not gaining any time. He's actually losing time. It's 9 seconds and continuing to drop a little bit. I think he's also doing the same as well. The only drivers who I'd be concerned about is Chad Gunningsman, who is, unfortunately, though, 27 seconds behind. There's no way, unless these drivers ahead of him come down pit road before this race is over. Coming around to get 4 laps to go for your race leader, and here comes Dave Fuge Jr. He could not stretch it far enough. He will come down pit road as Gary Donnellan. What will he do? Will he stay out and stretch it? Or will he continue and come down pit road? No, he will stay out another lap as he now has a 4-second advantage. Now it's only about 15 seconds for Chad Gunningsman. Let's see how far Gary Donnellan and Benjamin Stevens can stretch it out. Ooh, little splash and dash right there for Dave Fuge as he will rejoin the racetrack. He might be able to get ahead a couple of drivers, but not ahead of Gunningsman, Snyder, or Prohl, as those three will continue on their way. 3 laps to go for Gary Donnellan as he comes out of turn number 4. Can he make it to the finish? He is going to stay out another lap, this time by, it's now 13 seconds as Heath Snyder gets around Gunningsman for 3rd. Keep an eye on that as well, because that could be the battle for the win before this is all said and done, heading into turns 1 and 2. There you see him just trying to get as much clutching in as best he can. He's on the throttle now as he heads down the back straightaway. Let's see if he decides to clutch it heading into turn 3 and 4. Up to speed, up to speed. This would be the time where we see him clutching. There it is. Right there. Shuts it off, coasts through the middle, gets back on the throttle. A little bit, I have to say, a little bit too soon to get back on the throttle. I would let it clutch a little bit further right there as best he could. But popsicle sticks in the air. 2 laps to go for Gary Donnelly as he holds on to a 3-second advantage. It's now 10 seconds, though, for Snyder and Gunningsman as they're trying to close back in. Ben Steven also trying to make it to the end of the race here with 2 laps to go. Good point snipe for both of our drivers here in this stage of the race. Gary Donnellan heading into turn 3 and 4. He'll come around to take the white flag. And will he make it to the end? Waiting to see. Yes, he will. He will come around and take the white flag one more time around for Gary Donnelly. He's going to try to see if he can stay tucked up behind. Presented by Ryko Performance for your white flag. Heading down into turn 1 and 2 for the final time on the clutch. Hoping that he has enough fuel to just make it to the end. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Snyder, Gunningsman, just trying to barrel down and catch up as quickly as he can, hoping that he runs out of fuel, both him and Stevens, as they make their way into turn 3 and 4 for the final time. Gary Donnellan started far back outside the top 20, clawed his way through strategy, and out of turn number 4, he will collect the win here in the Motor City in Michigan and wins here in the SSRL. Same thing with Ben Stevens. He'll come across the line in 2nd. Snyder, Gunningsman, and company will round out the top 5. How about Scott Schroeder coming home in 5th? I think one driver, though, did not make it on fuel. That's Drew Prohl. He did, but he is out of fuel by the looks of it. Congratulations to Gary Donnellan, who will burn it down here in Michigan. With an exciting battle, he was able to play the strategy and get the win in a course derby. Great way to cap off the racing action here at Michigan. Gary Donnellan will burn it down on the front straightaway here. While he does that, we'll step aside, say thank you to a couple of partners, and have a chance to talk to your top 3. You're watching Grid Vision's coverage of the SSRL Truck Series, and we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Grid Vision's coverage, of course, of the SSRL Truck Series. And here, of course, is your running order And of course, it was Gary Donnellan, your race winner, followed by Ben Stevens and Heath Snyder, your top 3. Chad Gunningsman, Scott Schroeder, your top 5. Then Kevin Martin, Drew Prohl, Joseph Tucker, Dave Hughes Jr., and Kyle Westwood, your top 10. Then it's going to be Logan Joyle in 21st. 22nd is Chris Fuge, JP Jones, Charles Abert, Mac Brown, Jordan Sailors, Art Nicotera, and then, of course, Evan Ethel and Sean Stevens did not start here, as this will conclude your final full field rundown, and we'll have the chance to talk to your top 3 finishers, starting with 3rd place.
Hold on. This is why I don't do commentary. My mic was muted. B10 was
good.
Kyle Westwood, Hunter Hughes, Rob Yost, Blair Hollyman, Todd Perry, James Staples, Colton Gardner, Victor Plufker, Jason Karaki, Tom Ringer, and Patrick Stein in P20. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Well, now let's talk to Heath Snyder, your 3rd place finisher. Heath, you gave it everything you got, but were you really that concerned on the fuel stage right there to not make it to the end?
Oh, we weren't making it. You had to save from the start of the stage to make it, and you're gonna sacrifice so much track position to do it because of how fast this track is. So if I wanted to try to maintain my position up front, there was barely any saving I could do.
I hear you on that. Well, I mean, still though, a good points night for you. Able to come home in 3rd. Anyone you'd like to give a thank you to?
Well, I got to shout out the guys back at ESC. Happy to be a part of that team. We're putting out some great work right now, so looking forward to what the future holds, and thank you for you guys for holding the broadcast.
Absolutely. That is Heath Snyder, your Stage 1 winner, and finishing in 3rd place here today. Next up to talk to is Ben Stevens, and he is with Mr. Derbyshire.
How's it going, fellas?
Welcome up to the booth, Ben Stevens. We definitely enjoyed watching you race tonight. Wanted to ask you about your thoughts of the race back when you were rushing, trying to get back to the front of the pack, which evidently did work after the pit cycle. But what was that like when you were just running you and just a couple other trucks trying to get back up to the front?
Well, it ended up working out in the end, but I was struggling. Like at first, I just didn't have the pace figured out yet. Then once I finally figured it out, I started coming back up through the field again, and then just every time I'd try to go to pass, sometimes when I try to pass somebody, I just end up hitting the wall and lost all my momentum, and it just took forever to try to get it back.
Yeah, we definitely did see you dust it up off the wall a couple times there, but in the end, P2 tonight, a great way to go into the Christmas break here. Well, not much of a break. We do race next weekend at Talladega, and what's your thoughts on the race next week?
It's definitely going to be something to behold, that's for sure. Restrictor plate racing, we know how it goes, for sure. It's not going to be like this week where we had some fuel mileage play a factor into this.
Well, most certainly. Who do you want to thank before we let you go?
I just want to thank Dave and SSRL for all being able to put this all together. Thank you guys for the broadcast, and of course, thank you to my wife for letting me do this hobby for sure. And yeah.
All right, Benjamin. Well, we'll see you next week at Dega, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas to you.
And I'm going to give it back to Taylor here, and he'll be interviewing our race winner, Gary Donnellan.
Well, Gary, first and foremost, you pulled it off with an amazing fashion here to take home the win. And I got to say, great strategy call for you here tonight.
Yeah, man, it was just luck. I just wanted track position because my qualifying was terrible, and it gave me that. But as soon as the green flag came out again, I started saving immediately. So, I mean, I had to just save the whole time. That last 10, 12 laps, I was shutting it off going into the corner. So, Yeah, I'd rather be lucky than good because these guys up front, man, they're really good. I can't beat them usually.
Well, you were able to pull off some great strategy and come home with that win, but we got Talladega next week. Do you think we could see a 2 for 2 if you survive and play your cards right?
Yeah, I would have to survive that. I have the worst luck on those tracks, but I do love them.
I think everybody loves them one way or another. But before we let you go, Gary, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
No, man. Shout out to my crew at work, man. The IES.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, good group of guys. Some of them are watching right now.
Absolutely. Well, that is your race winner here tonight. Good way to have a little water cooler talk tomorrow for you there, Gary. Gary Donnellan, your winner here tonight as we get set to go racing at Talladega next Monday night for the final, which should be the final race for broadcasting for Grid Vision in 2024 before we're back at it once again in 2025. Of course, for myself and Austin Derbyshire and our entire team at Grid Vision, make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms to keep up with all the action as we look ahead in 2025. And of course, once again, here on Grid Vision, we'll see you on the grid.